Comic Book Savant, episode 354.
I know this. This I know. All that I have, all that is me, resides inside my poetry. And every time I write a rhyme, it might be the line that sets mine free. And also, I know that I don't...
Welcome to the Comic Book Savant podcast. I'm your host, James Harris. This week, we're going to do something that I haven't done in a while. I'm going to do a creator spotlight episode where basically I go into a particular creator in comics, be it a writer, artist, what have you, and go into detail about their background, some of the projects they worked on, and talk about some of the reasons how I discovered them and how I discovered some of their works and why they're one of my favorite creators. Hopefully with that, if you're not familiar with said creator, it will, might spark your interest and try to go back and look at some of their previous works. But before I get into that, as always, I love to give a shout out to my family over at the Comics Podcast Network. You can find them over at comicspodcast.com. It's a great place if you like this podcast and you want more comic related content to go. It's a one-stop shop where it is a plethora of comic book related podcasts, be it on a particular hero, a particular publisher, a particular team, you name it. It is literally hundreds of different shows there for you to find. So if you have a moment, stop by the Comics Podcast Network at comicspodcast.com and check it out. It doesn't hurt. And again, like I said, if you're a fan of this show and you're looking for more related content, take a moment to stop by. I think you'll definitely will find plenty of things to enjoy. And last but not least, I'd like to give a shout out to my sponsor for this in every episode, which is nstocktrades.com. One of the best one-stop shop places you can go online to get your collected editions, omnibus, absolute editions, Marvel Masterworks, you name it. If it's a collected edition, you can find it at nstocktrades.com. They have some of the best rates out there when it comes to pricing. You get discounts from anywhere from 35% off, 42% off, all the way up to 50% off. They have their deals of the week. They update the homepage every week with new deals that are 50% off. If you're a U.S. customer and you order $50 or more, which on a site like this you can hit pretty easily, you'll get free shipping. That's only for the U.S. customers. You get free shipping for orders that are $50 or more. If you happen to be an international customer and you hit that $50 threshold, you still get all the great savings. You just don't get that free shipping. But they do have some of the lowest and competitive international shipping rates around. So you definitely can still save a ton of money. So don't let that deter you at all. And I thank them again for all their support. We just had the big 11-year anniversary contest where we had the 3 winners. They got a lot of good books. I got to go back and check Instagram. I know I saw one of the posts from one of the winners, and he got a ton of books. I want to say, I think it was the winner that won the $75 one. Like, he had got a crap ton of books, from in-stock trades, just from that $75 gift certificate. The other winners, if you're listening, if I missed your post, if you can retweet or repost them and hashtag comic book savant, so I can get them, and I'll repost on mine or like it to get those back out, because I'd love to see what you guys get and what bang you can get for your bucks with those gift certificates. Like I said, last episode, I'm going to be looking to see if I can get another contest maybe going for the end of the year. I'm going to be looking to talk to In-Stock Trades about that in the next couple of weeks to see if I can get another contest going. But with all that out of the way, this episode is about Jason Aaron. And it's a funny thing about Jason Aaron because I discovered his work. If you guys are not familiar with the history of the show, very early on, I did a thing that was called Trade Your Pick. And it was kind of, on the original Comic Book Savant website, you could go and you could vote. I would have 4 or 5 books every month that you can go vote on. And based on what you guys voted from the library of books that I had in my collection that I hadn't read yet, I would pick that book, we would do kind of like a book of the month. I would read that book, do an episode, and put that out. I did that for a long time for the show. And then I just kind of converted doing just straight reviews later on. But it was a staple of the show for, quite a while. One of the books that I had a chance to check out was Scalped. It's this new creator, heard a lot about, Jason Aaron. He was very hot because he was coming off of Vertigo. He did a mini series. I want to say it was about the Vietnam War. It was called The Other Side. It got a lot of good press and reviews. And this is about 10 years ago now, if I'm not mistaken, at least anywhere from 10 to 8 years ago. This is very early on in the podcast. So I had a chance to, review the first volume of Scalped, and I really, really loved it. I never got a chance to read The Other Side, but that's kind of where his launching point was for DC Vertigo. Again, Other Side was very successful. It was a 5-issue miniseries. He did Scalped, which ran for 60 issues, nice, good run. I'll have links in the description of the episode on the website if you want to, go to links for those episodes where I did the review of Scalped Volume 1. And it kind of just spun off with there. I described it, if you're unfamiliar with Scalped, it's basically like The Sopranos on an Indian reservation. That's the best way, in the shortest terms or words, that I can describe Scalped to you on any kind of level. It's The Sopranos on an Indian reservation. Like I said, I read the first volume of that, and I was kind of late to the game. He was probably halfway through that point when I got to review Scalped. He was probably about halfway through that 60-issue run. At that time, like most great creators, they start, with independent roots, like Kirkman, with Image starting off, and then he, migrated over to Marvel for a while. The same thing kind of happened with Jason Aaron. He eventually went over to Marvel, and he did various smaller projects. And then he kind of hit a stride. He got on Wolverine. He did a lengthy run on Wolverine. Now, what really clicked for me with Jason Aaron was his work on X-Men Schism. I had been on around that time when he came on and this event came, they would start publicizing this event, Schism. I was like, I was kind of leery about the X-Men. Kieran Gillian was writing, at the time, I think he was writing Uncanny X-Men. So I was, I had just start getting back in because Kieran Gillian had got my attention and I was liking that run. So this big event, I was like, I don't know if I want to do this big, X-Men, stable wide event. But it just, I was curious about it and I tried it, and I'm so glad I did, because it was really the turning point where I just locked into Jason Aaron as a writer. And it just, seemed, and this is carried over to any of his works, and by no means have I read everything that this man has written, because he's put down quite a bit in a short span of time over at Marvel on a lot of different books, and he's had quite substantial runs on a lot of different things. I got a chance to read Schism, fell in love with it, fell in love with his writing. He launched into Wolverine and the X-Men shortly thereafter. I read a fairly good amount of that run. Then I just kind of fell off from Marvel because a lot of stuff that was, going on over at DC, and, and I was reading some independent books, and I kind of just fell off. Not that the book got bad at all. It was so much stuff going out. I just didn't keep up with it. But I just loved his passion, and it was like whatever he writes, he knows the characters extremely well, and he writes with a passion that I don't see with every writer. And different writers have different techniques, but you can literally feel in his writing the passion and the love that he has for whatever character he's writing that particular time on that particular book. You feel it in how they're portrayed on the page. That he's not going to write a character that he doesn't know anything about or he doesn't personally love. That's what attaches me or connects me to his writing so strongly is that you're gonna, if you are a fan of any particular character he writes, he's gonna do that character justice. You're not gonna be like, oh wow, he really has no idea, or he's never read this book before. If he's writing it, he's a fan of it, and he knows, and he does that character, like I said, proper justice. And I just, that about him is why when I see his name on a book, no matter who's drawing it, I know the writing is going to be quality. Now, the art might be crap depending on what artist they have on it, but you know the writing is quality with him. I haven't really, of anything that I can think of his that I actually read to be like, yeah, that was just not a good, issue of the comic. He always produces quality content, and no layups, no this was a fill-in issue feel that I've ever gotten with anything that he's written that I've read. From Wolverine and the X-Men, he did the Amazing X-Men, a 6-issue. I don't know if this was a limited series, but I was looking at his writing history up on Wikipedia. They said Amazing X-Men it was a 1 through 6, so it might have been a part of an event or another limited series. He did a short run on Ghost Rider, which was about 15 issues long, issues 20 through 35. He did a run on Punisher Max that went 22 issues, 1 through 22. He relaunched The Incredible Hulk. He did a 15-issue run on that. I read the first maybe 2 or 3 issues of that. I was digging that. Again, never got back to finish reading it, but really strong start. I really was liking what he was doing on it. Thor God of Thunder. I have such a backlog of Thor books because if you follow the history of the show, one of my favorite characters, due to one of my favorite writers of all time, Walter Simonson, is Thor. And I'm so hype about Thor Ragnarok. But Jason Aaron did Thor God of Thunder run. He's doing a Thor run now with Jane Foster. He's done multiple Thor books. He did Thor God of Thunder initially, which was a 25-issue run. Then he did a Thor run that was 8 issues. Then he did the Mighty Thor, which is the current run. I think that's the Jane Foster run as well. So he's been on Thor and really has established stuff. I've heard nothing but good things. I read the first maybe 1 or 2 issues of God of Thunder, and I have a lot of them backlogged on Comixology that I need to get to because I'm so behind on anything Thor at this point. When JMS was writing it, and then Fraction, and then Gillian, I bounced around and I kept up with it for a while, but I'm so woefully behind. I am years behind on Thor now. But like I said, I really liked what I started reading. I just, catch up on that. He also did a Thanos Rising, a limited series. He was the spearhead or main writer on the original Sin Marvel event that happened a couple of years ago with Who Killed the Watcher. He also, what I've been reading, and I actually just read a couple of issues. I think his run just ended or is getting ready to end on Star Wars. He's been on that book for quite a while. I don't know what the current issues are. I just read, I think issues like 23, 24, 25, I want to say, but I know that book is way beyond that. Let me see if I can pull up Comixology real quick. I want to say maybe it's in the 30s or 40s or something like that. Again, so many books that I'm super behind on, but he's had a pretty substantial run on Star Wars for Marvel, and really has done a great job. I think him and Kieran Gillian especially have done the best work with the different Marvel Star Wars books with for sure. I've really enjoyed Star Wars, and one of the few Marvel books that I currently stay current on, mainly because of, the writing was just so good. The only thing is they kill me with the darn books being so pricey. They're so expensive. So I kind of pick and choose my battles with the Star Wars books, where the good thing about having the Comixology Unlimited, which I talked about before, certain books will get staggered and they'll put them under the Unlimited banner. So then, because I'm subscribed to that subscription service, I'll get the catch up here and there, but it always keeps me behind. But again, I'm not paying, what is it, $4 an issue or like $5 an issue? Like, they charge an arm and a leg for the Star Wars book. So, it's the one way I can kind of work around it. But he had a really great run on that. I am looking now. What was the last issue that came out? So I think issue 36 or so was the looking at the single issues. Like I said, I've been so behind. So issue 37. It's currently at like issue 37. I know I read somewhere he recently finished his run on the book. I don't know what issue it ended at, so I don't want to be called out for being a liar or giving misinformation. But he's had a pretty substantial run on the book. I know I read about it recently, so he's at least gone somewhere around 30 issues or so on that book. So when he gets on a book, he stays on for a fairly good amount of time, and he stays on to tell the story he intends to tell, and when that's over, he moves on to something else. He currently, on top of that, he's been writing Doctor Strange. Like I said again, he's also been writing The Mighty Thor, and he's back over doing creator-owned work at Image, and he's doing a series called Southern Bastards. I just picked up the first issue of it. It's been going for a little while. I didn't know he was doing a creator-owned thing again, outside of all the work, because he's writing quite a few books over at Marvel. So when I saw that, I picked it up, and I need to check it out. I actually have it queued up to be one of my next reads, so I can definitely see what he's doing over creator-owned, on the creator-owned side of things. So like I said, it's a lot of times we are fans of particular writers, and we meet them at a particular point in their career working for a major company like Marvel or DC. And if we don't do some legwork, hey, I really like this writer, let me see what else he's done. And I try to do that over the years. I never used to do that early on. And as over the years in my comic journey through doing the show, I kind of learned to fully support a creator. If you like that creator, you like their writing, you like their artwork, go back. If they have a website, if they have a personal website, they all have their writing credits or their art credits there, and go back and pick up some of those books, and you can, or you can see an evolution of when they were starting out writing to where they evolved to. A lot of times it's fun, and a lot of times some of their creator-owned work is really standout, phenomenal stuff that is just not talked about because it gets overshadowed because they're working with the big toys that Marvel and DC provides. But some of their creator-owned work can sometimes outshine some of their independent work can sometimes outshine the stuff they do with the bigger companies, because they have a little bit more freedom to do what they want or create their own characters, because they can be restricted working with the bigger companies. So it's something I like to do when I find creators that I enjoy. I go back and try to read as much, if it appeals to me, like certain stuff like Carrie and Gillian comes to mind with Phonograph. It's a music kind of hippie kind of musical thing. I tried to read it once before and I just couldn't get into it, but I love his stuff that he's done, at Marvel, his Star Wars stuff, his Darth Vader stuff, things like that. Carrie, the difference with someone like with a Jason Aaron is he's very gritty, down to earth, and then he can do fantastical elements. So he has a range that kind of fits me, because I like I said, what I've read of Scalped, and I've bought more of the trades after that one I reviewed later. I would catch them on sale digitally on Comixology, and I picked up a couple more, and I want to finish the whole 60 issue series. That he's very true crime, gritty, like I said, Sopranos, The Wire, type vibe, to it. And then he's done Wolverine and done epic stuff with the X-Men and fantastical elements like with Thor and with Doctor Strange and space opera with Star Wars. So he's very versatile in that way, and most of the things that he writes appeals to me on one side or the other, or the other, when it comes to superhero or if it comes to like true crime. And again, I apologize for the noise. This is, like I said, it's a big adjustment now from where I'm set up now in my studio. So you'll get little things like that. It's just, you're going to have to bear with me. Is why I'm dealing with it as well. And it's frustrating because I try to get you guys the cleanest audio as possible. And then you hear motorcycle in the background or you hear some kind of noise. So definitely bear with me on that. But that's really all I have to say. Like I said, he has extensive work at Marvel. He's done some stuff over at Vertigo. Now he's doing Southern Bastards over at Image. So definitely, like I said, if you're a fan and you haven't read some of this stuff, I heard good things about his Ghost Rider stuff. I've read, like I said, bits and pieces of his Wolverine and the X-Men. If I have to recommend anything, recommend Scout, because I've actually read some of that and I know it's good. Schism is a fantastic limited series event for the X-Men. Like I said, the Thor, the Incredible Hulk, I read bits and pieces of that. I can recommend that stuff. And by far, check out, if you're a fan of Star Wars, check out his Star Wars series, his run on Star Wars. It fills in the gap between Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back and the adventures that Luke, Han, and Leia have in between those two movies. It's really, really, really good. Like I said, if you're a fan, you'll enjoy it. You can pick up the trades relatively cheap now because there are quite a few. I think there are 5 out now with a 6th one getting ready to come out, or it just came out. So you definitely will have plenty to read there and enjoy. So definitely do that. I'll have links down in the description for when I did the Trade You Pick episode reviewing Scout, if you want to check that out. And that's all I have for you guys. Again, this is the first time in a while I've done a creator spotlight. I've done maybe, let me look if I can see in my notes. This is going to be, I've done one on Fred Van Lente. I've done one on Matt Fraction, Jeff Johns, Brian Michael Bendis, Robert Kirkman, Oliver Copel as well. He just had a birthday. Happy belated. I think his birthday was yesterday. Love that artwork that Oliver does. He's a phenomenal artist. So I've done a few. It's been quite a while since I've done one. I want to do more to kind of spotlight different creators that have influenced me and inspired me in doing the show, and that I follow their works. And I'll be doing some character spotlights as well coming up. I got some of that stuff coming down the pike as well. Like I said, just giving you varied content of different things. Like I said, to hopefully you guys over the years, from suggestions and recommendations, have expanded my view of comics. And I know we have so many different demographics of people that listen to the show that might just be getting into comics because of the TV shows or the movies or the cartoons, or just randomly picking up a book and want to know where to go. So hopefully by doing episodes like this, I help point you in a particular direction and be like, hey, I read Thor. I like that writer. Didn't know what his name was. Cool. Now I know. And now I know to look for his work. And I've given you, some direction to kind of go. For the more, seasoned listeners that and comic readers, maybe this is, maybe you didn't know all his previous work that's non-Marvel. So hopefully, like I said, it's helpful to everyone on multiple levels of just recommending and talking about something different within the comic world to kind of be like a guide to you. So hopefully you found this helpful. As always, check out the website, comicbooksavant.com. You can hit me up on Twitter, Instagram at comicbooksavant. If you want to help support the show, I talk about this shameless plug. I have a Patreon, which is patreon.com/comicbooksavant. If you want to help support the show, everything goes back into the equipment, comics, things of that nature to help make the show better. And again, I still have dreams of grandeur pleasure to make this show as good as possible. Or you can do a one-time donation through PayPal. I have all the links to any way if you can. If you can't, don't worry about it. Comic Book Savant is still a free podcast. It just costs and prices get expensive in creating said podcast. So if you can, please do. If you can't, just continue giving your support, sending in questions, feedback, post, things like that. Everything that you do helps. So don't feel like, hey, if I can't financially contribute, I'm not being a part of the show. You sending in questions and feedback, send recommendations of things you want me to cover. You can tweet it to me. You can send me a message on Instagram, or you can just email me through the website. You can always hit me up through comicbooksavant.com. It's a contact us page. You can go in and send an email directly from the website on, hey, James, I want you to cover this, or would you do this? I will, I'm want to serve you guys as best as possible, and I'm always looking for new creative ideas on things to cover on the podcast. So definitely be a part of the community. I want to make this community as interactive as possible, so please do so. I might be posting 2 videos. Finally got my video equipment set back up, so the Comic Book Savant YouTube channel I'll be putting out more videos now. Like I said, just been recovering from everything that I talked about last episode. So more is to come with video on the YouTube channel as well. YouTube.com/Comic Book Savant. So if you haven't checked it out, please do. I do separate content from what I do here. I don't, I try to do separate stuff in a more scaled down 5 to 10 minute little block of reviews, movie reviews, television reviews, things of that nature, things talking about comic book video games, things that I don't cover here in the podcast. I try to give you a different option on the YouTube channel. So definitely go over to YouTube, subscribe, click the little bell notification so you'll be alerted of when new videos pop up there. And that's all I have for you guys. So I will see you again next week for another episode of Comic Book Savant. You guys have a good week, and check out some Jason Aaron comics, and hit me up and let me know what you've tried and what you liked. And I'll see you next time. Take care.
And into lyrical wholeness. And I know this, and I know this. This I know, this I know.